guy one night in eastern Idaho, he says, I think you might be kind of gay. Those are the words he chose. I think you might be kind of gay. I said, you know, buddy, if you're going to heckle me, commit. Can you be kind to what you are? Haven't you figured it out yet? That you're perfect? Assets, liabilities, a blend that makes you the piece of the jigsaw puzzle that we're missing when you leave? Perfect. What's kind of gay for a man anyway? What would that be? I march in the parade every other year. Just part of my house is decorated well. I'm only going to stick the head in. What does that mean? Seriously. My dad hates that joke, man. He's so homophobic, he won't eat a hot dog. It looks icky to him, really. I grew up in a dysfunctional family. I heard that at the arraignment. Catholics use the term broken home, broken, dysfunctional upbringing, dysfunctional environment. My family was evil. Dysfunctional was the toaster in the kitchen that never worked properly. Mom drank because she was alcoholic. That's what alcoholics do. They drink. That's why they call them drunks. It's natural for them. My dad drank because he was married to my mom. My dad always had a good reason to be drunk. I drink to take the edge off. I drink to smooth out the rough edges. Dad was not an alcoholic. He was a circle.
Wow. That was a long time ago. I've written a lot of material since then, gained a couple pounds, and probably a lot of experience. That was the year I met today's guest on the show. Our guest today is Jesse Joyce. You'll hear from him in a minute. We got a call with him. Jesse Joyce, who writes for the Emmys, the Oscars, Comedy Central Roast, and most currently, he's one of the top writers on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. He's a former stand-up and very dear friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. In fact, that clip you saw, that was from the year I met our guest for today's show. The Mark Lundholm Show on YouTube. Glad you tuned in. You know, a lot of us had humble beginnings. I remember early on where all I wanted to do was be on stage. What are you doing today? And how did that begin? What was the process? One of the things I want to talk to our guest today is about the idea of sacrifice for a career, for a cause, for a passion, a relationship. Sacrifice. I know early on in my career, I confused sacrifice with the word substitute. Sacrifice is not substitute for. A substitute isn't really sacrifice. A sacrifice means I'm giving up something, and there's got to have value to it. That makes it a sacrifice. Early on in particular, I remember wanting to do stand-up comedy more than anything else in the world. I wanted to be visible, to be funny, to be famous, to be a headliner. Oh, headliner. I mean, that's the top job in comedy, right? Well, turns out it isn't. Here's the bit I wrote a long time ago is that an MC, Master of Ceremonies, MC, that's the first comedian in the lineup. That's the short time one. That's the brand new person. The MC wants to become the middle act, which is the 30-minute act. The middle act wants to become the headliner. The headliner wants their own TV show or talk show, and if they get their own talk show, they're back to being an MC hosting. The sacrifice we make along the way, the stages of development, humans go through that. You sacrifice early on by giving up something valuable to pursue something that is, internal, universal, methodical, spiritual. Certainly, the sacrifices we make for the places we end up, relationship-wise. I know early on for me, and I'll talk to our guest about it today too, is that the sole purpose of doing stand-up comedy on our own is a solitary investment, but we give up relationships that are consistent, an address that's always the same, time at home with family and events. And I mean, comedy, basically, if you're going to do it for a living, it's on the road, which means not at your house. I was never a 9-to-5 guy, and I don't know any comedians who are 9-to-5 people, really. That maybe become a job, maybe becomes a job for somebody who is a writer like our guest today. But the sacrifice is necessary to achieve any kind of at least skill, a fine-tuned art or passionate pursuit of a certain thing. School requires a focus, and a lot of jobs require a lot of schooling, therefore a lot of focus. So what are you sacrificing today for what you're getting out of that? I remember sacrificing a lot of sleep to be on the road. I remember sacrificing a lot of ha-ha to go into one-nighters where they just didn't get it. And I'm not talking about that accent. I'm talking about people who come from a lifestyle that says, wait a minute, that's a little complicated, comedy boy. Why can't you talk about something that's very basic? Well, sacrifice. Eventually, I learned to sacrifice the big laugh for the bigger picture. And I will certainly ask our guest today, Jesse Joyce, what his sacrifices have been and what his take on that is. The big laugh for the bigger picture. Jesse's in the middle of a very big picture right now in his career. He's one of the guys I'm really proud of because I basically met him when he first started doing comedy. And very few people are funny when they first start. Jesse and I, we weren't funny when we first started, but we both thought we were. And I was a little farther along on the ladder of headliner and MC and middle act and one-nighter. And the thing I like about Jesse and the thing I loved about the comedy in general is that we kept trying. We got in there and we kept swinging, If you keep something up, it's probably because your belly's burning about it. And if you don't give up, you find yourself in a place you never thought you'd be. And I think that that's because we sacrifice a lot of time and effort in relationships and normal average friendships to be in the arts and entertainment field. I've kind of got a hybrid career. I get to do edutainment. That's what we call it, edutainment. I get to educate. I get to illustrate or facilitate some kind of conversation. But I also get to entertain. And I found that the best education is usually entertaining. Didn't you have a teacher or a professor or a mentor or a Cub Scout leader or a minister at your church or some kind of den mother, helper, dance teacher who was entertaining and funny and human, and you could see the layers of that person, and they were interesting to listen to? Those are the best teachers. The best teachers! They say that those who can't do teach. I don't believe that. I think that the people who are doing something teach that thing way better. And if you want to find out how much you know something, try to teach it to somebody else. And speaking of teachers, I'm thrilled to have on the show today one guest, one only. That's all you're going to need, Jesse Joyce. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Mark Lundholm Show. One of the privileges I have of being the host is that I get to choose my guests. And we want the guests to be authentic and interesting. And I don't know a lot of people in my industry who are not those things. Then there are the people who are exceptionally those things. Today's guest is one of those. I've known this guy for a long time. I've respected him for almost since the day we met. I don't really remember if I respect him the day we met, but soon after that, I fell into that category. I love this guy. He is one of the exceptional writers on the planet. His lens to look at comedy is deep and vast and wide, and the scope of what he can make fun of is almost limitless. I've known this man for a long time as a stand-up comic. I admire some things about him personally. I know that the rest of the stuff he's going to tell you is going to keep you riveted. Please welcome my friend Jesse Joyce.
Hey, Mark. How are you, buddy?
Good, buddy. And I mean this with all my heart. I've been looking forward to this episode more than a lot of them. We've got a few in the can. Yes. And I'll tell you why. Personally, I've watched you grow since the Pittsburgh Funny Bone Station Square days into the Addicts Comedy Tour, Comedy Addiction Tour days, the different levels of Jesse Joyce. And one of the things I love is the levels have always gone in an ascending stratospheric fashion. How do you feel about that arc in the story?
By the way, I was just thinking about it. I think I have literally, I'm twice as old as I was when we met. I think I've actually known you for half of my life. So,
wow. I'm sorry?
I was 20 when we met, probably 19 or whatever, and I'm 41 now. So, yeah.
So to impact the audience, I know we're going to do a brief talk here, but to impact the people watching that maybe don't know Jesse Joyce, but they're going to know about him really instantly. They're going to connect. So the story is Jesse Joyce is a stand-up comic who came out of college, right? Just wanted to try to do some time at his local club in Pittsburgh. Fair enough? Mm-hmm. And now you write for the Jimmy Kimmel show.
Yeah.
Dude, the in-between there has got to be intriguing.
Yeah, I had zero intention of ever being a writer. It was not on my radar at all. I just liked doing stand-up. And I was fortunate that I had an uncle who did stand-up for a few years in the 80s when it was big and everybody was doing it. And that's what made me realize it was a job option. I feel like most people end up dicking around in some job they don't like for 6 or 7 years before they realize they should start doing stand-up,
that's been the story for people we both know.
Yeah, so I had the luxury of knowing when I was 14 that that's what I wanted to do, so I basically as soon as I was legally old enough to start showing up at a comedy club, I did and started doing stand-up, and then just over the years I would meet other comics who then had sort of more clout than I did. They were going to do a TV thing, and they'd go listen, I have this thing I got to do in a few weeks, can you write some jokes for me? And I would do that, and then that would beget more of it, and it just it's a complete accident. I never sought out any of this writing shit. It just kind of happened that way, and now I have sort of a nice career as it. It bought me a house, so that's nice.
Exactly. I was gonna say, you've gone from an opening act, an MC, a house comic, in a Pittsburgh club that's not even there anymore. And into working with some people along the way. I was fortunate enough to be one of them. I remember you and I worked together for a week in Pittsburgh, and I've got the headliner slot, and you're the guy who comes on before me, and I like your stuff, and we get to be talking about other life issues that maybe we parallel on. But give me the Reader's Digest version, if you will. And I'm not trying to rush you or edit you at all. More Jesse, less Mark is the best interview I ever could do with you. So give me the short thumbnail sketch of stand-up comic, 5-minute, to today, exactly today on Friday. Give me the arc, the story. Go.
Yeah. Okay. So I just kept doing stand-up, and as a result of that, blossomed into a full-blown alcoholic by doing so. And along the way, just kind of was spinning my wheels doing comedy on the road, and did some dumb fire hall gig in New Jersey and got a DUI. And that is the event that got me sober. And because I'd gotten sober, I had the same manager as Greg Giraldo, who also was coincidentally trying to get sober at the exact same time. And so he more or less suggested that we might be able to keep each other out of trouble on the road if we worked together. And so he and I started working together and then became really close friends. And then he's one of those guys who was getting a lot of TV opportunities. And so he more or less said hey, do you want to help me write some stuff for it was the Flavor Roast was the first thing I ended up working on in the TV writing world. And that went really well. And so he basically just said, just in the future was, in addition to me opening for him on the road, whenever he had a TV gig, I'd help him write jokes for it and stuff. And then that sort of burgeoned into like a full writing partnership where he was, really generous and kind enough to like give me loud credit for that. Like I would go with him to the roast and, people would come up and congratulate him afterwards. And he would say, "Oh, Jesse wrote that joke," or whatever. And so that kind of really got my name out there. And then when Greg passed away as a result of drug and alcohol abuse, I kind of just got grandfathered into the staff on the roast. I'm not talking about I really seem to just gloss over the death of my friend, but that you asked me for in 5 minutes explain my career. So,
Yeah, I'm not.
I know that seemed really callous the way I was just like, so then Greg died and I got a gig. But But anyway, but so that grandfathered me into the roast writing room. Like, so then I became part of that staff, and then just it snowballed from there because that's a collection of writers from all over the place that kind of come together for a few weeks, and then they go off and do another project, and they recommend you to that, and then this guy recommends you to this, and then this lady recommends you to that, and then just before I just all of a sudden, like ever since then, I've kind of never not had a writing gig. So I've been really lucky in that way.
And so a couple of quick questions. And no, you talk as much as you want about you. That's why we're having this episode, and this episode in homage to you and the feelings you bring people and the light you have. You can write from a very dark place. I know that about you. But you also have a lot of levity and light and upbeat kind of. If I was going to get slapped in the face, I'd want it to be you.
Oh, that's nice, I think. That's the most unusual. Yeah. That's one of the most unusual compliments I think I've ever gotten.
Well, and I'll tell you why is because you wouldn't kill me, hurt me, or cut me, or want to end up severely damaging my future. But you'd make a statement that was snap quick and boom. That's your gift. That's what I watch. That's your gift. I'm a storyteller. You're a joke writer. But in your stories, there's a series of jokes that are bang, bang, boom, bang, 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 bang. A lot of comics can't do both like you do. The question is, where'd you get that eyeball?
The ability to write jokes like that? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Where'd you get the ability to just cut right to the chase?
Don't really know where it comes from. I've just been a student of comedy my whole life. I've really enjoyed it. Like I don't feel like I have kind of a darkness to my, like I really hate the comics and the, people in comedy who have that, like, who paint it with that sad clown brush. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I do.
Something, like tragically noble about being a tortured dark. Like, I just think it's the most fun in the world to like laugh all day. Like, that's what, like, if I could get a job doing that, that's like, so, but to me, the stuff that's funny is the stuff that's like really kind of shocking and,
And that's the dark part I'm talking about. You have a lens that looks at the horrific bottom that is, you and I have been through some personal alleys, quote unquote, in life, using the same tools or framework to try to protect us chemically. I'm going to get to that in a second. But that dark that I want you to know that I see in you is you can go way down deep under the covers to look at something and bring it up in light of comedy that's not that artistic, hip, a comic kind of. It's got to be dour and sad and sick and depressing. That's hilarious. Ha, ha, ha. I'm not that comedian either, and I've never appreciated people who said that's the only way comedy works these days. You got to be angry. You got to be vile, and you have to be depressing. That's hilarious. Yeah. Kimmel's not like that.
No, but he's like willing to go dark, which I like, so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just, to me, it just comes from a place where, like, I guess just at the real, if you really boil it down at the very root of it, that's the stuff that's like the most, surprising. Like, you don't see it coming. Like I really like absurd comedy too, like Monty Python, because it has the same thing. I don't do Monty Python stuff. That's not what I do at all. But I like it because you can't, like, it's surprising. You don't see it coming. And
so you speak British.
Yeah, jokes that are that go dark is that like, oh, I didn't think it was going to go there, you know?
Yeah. So Comedy Central roasts. Tell me about the Emmys and Oscars.
Yeah. I am going to be writing for the Emmys if they have one this year, but I've actually never, in an official capacity, written for the Emmys. But like I've written for the occasional celebrity who's like asked me to write for them, who has been presenting like a category. But like I've never been on the staff for that. I was nominated for an Emmy. There is that.
I remember that. And that's, I wanted to get to your bona fides here. I don't know too many comedians, and I'm not trying to be cheeky here. I don't know too many comedians that have had a reserved parking space at the Oscars. Do you?
Oh yeah, I got two. Because I wrote for him twice. Look, they're right here. I can show it to you. I know it's gonna. We spent so much time working on this goddamn camera angle that you're gonna be so annoyed that I'm moving the laptop after this long conversation.
Do it.
One of my reserved parking spots, and then there's the other one up there, my reserved parking spot.
Look at that.
Because I wrote for the Oscars twice, and that's like the coolest perk of writing for the Oscars is you get to park beneath the Oscars and you get your own parking space. And the first time I did it, I was still living in New York and I wasn't living out here, and I like just rented a car, and I used to rent from this place to save money called Rent-A-Wreck. And so the car that I had was like literally this like 1989, and this is, by the way, like in the year 2000, or like what was it, 2015, and I rented like a 1989 like Hyundai hatchback, and like the hood was a different color than the car, not on purpose, like just because it was just like a piece of shit that they. That's the car that I drove to the Oscars, and like so it was just like all like limousines and Lamborghinis and shit, and then like I had like a stick shift, like rattly 1989 Hyundai hatchback. It was really fun to take.
Oh, thanks, Jesse. That feels good because that's a car I'm driving now. I appreciate that, my friend. No, but listen. So the joke there for me is that the budget is so big for the Oscars that not only do they give you a reserved parking space, they give you the sign to go.
Yeah, well, you'd be disappointed to discover that it's actually cardboard. It's just a cardboard.
Kind of like,
it looks cool, like, but don't touch it, because it's just like a piece of cardboard. But
so you're a stand-up comic. You're a single guy on the road. That's the Jesse.
Yeah.
I know that's this Jesse I met. I'm going to do this is a little bit of foreshadowing here.
I see.
So I no, it's okay. I write once in a while, for God's sake.
Well, you were saying it in the present tense. That's why it was confusing to me. That's all.
Oh, well, you know what?
I get it.
Okay.
You were like unwinding a story like Mark Twain.
I was trying to paint a picture, but no.
The tableau. Like it was a moonlit night. And
guess what? Clearly I was not. I forget I'm talking to an actual writer. But you're a single guy and from the Pittsburgh area. You've got a formal education you got a bachelor's degree in what? Or a master's degree in what?
I have a double major in art and art history and a minor in communications. So, I basically intentionally majored in shit that like I couldn't use as a backup plan. You know what I mean? Like my parents wanted me to go to college and I thought I'd get something out of it too. But at the same time, I didn't want to go to school for like pharmacy because then it would be an excuse for me not to do comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could get a real job.
Right. And like there's absolutely nothing you can do with an art and art history undergraduate degree.
Where'd you go to school, Jesse?
Duquesne University in Pittsburgh. So
great school.
And then I took some art classes at Carnegie Mellon as well when I was in high school.
So you are an established student, smart, capable of picking up information, finishing what you start. As a comedian, that's oxymoronic. I mean, seriously, we're not reliable or stable, and we don't make good choices as people. I've known hundreds of us, comics. I've never met any of us who didn't have two things specifically: depression and narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Well, like they have to have both?
No, I've never met somebody who did not have a level of each of those.
I really genuinely don't think I am a depressed person at all.
Okay. what about the
which
depression?
sounds narcissistic, by the way. So I do have the second half of that, I guess.
No. It sounds like you know who you are. I wouldn't say that you're a depressed person, but I've seen you in levels of depression where the business is too hard, or I'm not getting the gigs, or I'm not getting the headline as fast as I want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that just real life? Am I being too dramatic?
And also, like, you and I were on the road together in my sort of single days where I would date a girl and get dumped, and then I'd be bummed out for a few weeks. So
well,
you saw that.
I didn't want to bring that up.
Overall, sure, like I had self-doubt and down moments, but I don't think that I could be painted with like depression as a quality, you know?
Okay, so typically unique Jesse Joyce, and the reason I'll be honest with you, I name these episodes before I speak to the guests. We've talked to celebrities and therapists, and I'm going to talk to. I've talked to Augie Smith. I'm going to talk to Dwayne Kennedy.
Okay. I love those guys.
These are guys, and they're different flavors of us, right?
Sure.
Augie's not Jesse. Jesse's not Dwayne. Dwayne's not Mark. And we get to all have an independent voice and a lens because we're all really talented. And this show is about how to serve the universe. Basically, there's an underlying theme. I don't always say it out loud, and we'll probably cut it out of the edited version. But The Joy of Joyce is the name of this episode because that's literally what you bring to people who've met you along the way. I've never met anybody who has anything bad to say about you in the industry. Never.
That's nice.
You know how rare that is in comedy?
That's very nice. That's cool.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. That's very nice.
Well, I'm just telling you.
I tried to also, I was fortunate in the sense that like everybody that I met along the way coming up was like went out of their way to be nice to me. So like, I'm not doing it because of that, but like I do have a pay it forward sense of things, and like you specifically, you mentioned it, but that was my very first paid week at the Funny Bone, where like the club that I was the bar back and I was, doing the open mics and stuff like that. And I had wanted to get into that club for a long time. And I don't know if you remember, speaking of people who have bad things to say about people in the business, do you remember that guy, Randy, who used to work at he ran the Pittsburgh Funny Bone? That guy was
the manager,
douchebag. I never liked that dude. He was such like a mean, angry guy about comedy. Like he was just like so defeated all the time and like resented new people who like wanted to try it and whatever. I don't know why, but like, so he would not let me move up. He wouldn't pay me to do stand up. He like refused to give me a week like emceeing, which is not that big a deal. You know what I mean? But he just wouldn't. And then you made it a point where you said that you like insisted that I be the MC that week. And so that's how I ended up. I have the check on my wall right over there behind me from that first week that I did.
Isn't it nice when you you don't have to cash all the checks you get? Is that a nice lifestyle?
Oh, no. Oh, I was broke as fuck. I absolutely cashed that check. That's a photocopy of that check. There's no way I didn't cash that check.
Hey, listen.
$120. Like I needed that desperately.
Oh yeah, dude.
So,
I still need that. $120. That's lunch for one at the airport, for God's sakes. Come on. Right? So let's say this. Let's say this for the people watching this episode right now, which is The Joy of Joyce and Jesse Joyce. You can Google him. Look him up. He's powerfully. He's got tons of stuff we really don't have time to go into at length. But on the extra bonus version of this episode, which people can get if they subscribe, I want to talk to you about Randy specifically.
Okay.
That manager. I want to tell you a story that I can't tell in this episode right now. I can tell it in the long version of the show.
I got another story too. It didn't happen to me, but it happened to a friend of mine. He ended up suing Randy, but we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, let's do it on the long version. So, you've written for the Oscars. You've written for
twice,
twice. Sorry. Yeah, that's right.
I got two parking spaces.
There's an old story where George Clooney's talking to Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt is been the greatest looking guy on earth, whatever. And so is George Clooney, and so George Clooney says, "Sexiest man on the planet," and Brad Pitt goes, "2-time."
Yeah,
because he's got two covers that say that, right?
Yeah.
So Jesse's got two parking space signs. So will write for the Emmys and already has written for presenters of the Emmys because you're a phenomenal writer. Comedy Central roast, which is a very, very different language from which you usually speak, I know. That's an acidic kind of razor slash across the throat attack. And then there's the Oscars, which probably has to be a lot different than the Comedy Central roasts, right? Where it's not PCPG, but hey, it's got to be palatable for TV. Who else have you written for that we don't know about?
Well, even more sort of drastically, I wrote for the Tony Awards, which, that's the Broadway
the Tony
musical awards.
Yes.
And, that has to be a lot safer than
that's
for example.
That's the nicest you probably have to write, yeah, the Tony?
And it's really hard, too, because you have to, it shouldn't be televised, basically, the Tonys. There's no reason, because it's a local award show. You only have a sense of who's winning awards for what if you've been to New York and seen those shows. Because I didn't even know it till I worked on it, but the only things that are up for a Tony are the shows that are currently on Broadway this year. So
yes.
Phantom of the Opera can't win another Tony, because
no.
It already unless there's a revival of it. But the point is,
they call it a revival. There's a category for that.
What's that?
There's a revival. There's a category for that. If they revive West Side Story, then it could be nominated
again. But shy of that, every single Broadway show is one you've barely heard of because it's all brand new stuff, So and working on it from LA, there's literally no way you can even find out about the shows. So you're really just reading the description on Wikipedia and then just trying to make jokes about it. But then because it's televised, the audience live in the room are people who know every one of those shows so intimately that you have to make a specific enough observation about it to make it interesting for them.
Yeah.
But also relatable enough that the TV audience will have any idea of what you're talking about. So it's a real fine needle to thread,
Yeah, and you have to be very cognizant. I know this from writing comedy. You have to be very cognizant about who's going to watch, who's going to listen. Where's your bullseye? Where's your bullseye? It's an audience full of actors. It's an audience full of producers, and that's. I did a show in New York off Broadway. We were nominated for an Obie.
Oh yeah, sure. I know what those are. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's 6 of us that know what that is, Jesse. But that's the minor league version of the Tonys you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's a very select little sisterhood. You know what I mean? It's only a few people that know. So you've gone from you write stand up, which is a bit and a set of jokes and a string and an arc and a set. You got a set. You got a set that you take from 40 minutes that you do in Cincinnati, then you do it in Dayton, and then you do it in Akron, and then you do it in Columbus, and then you do it. You got that 40 minutes, and it's boom, 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 get in the car, boom, 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 get in the car. There's a difference between that. Got to be what's the shock value or the shock of writing comedy every night for Kimmel? Every day you got to have a new bunch.
Well, here's the thing. When you do stand-up, the difference is what you're trying to accomplish in stand-up is getting people to know you and what you think is funny, right? Whereas when you're writing for a show or an award show or whatever, it's really more you guessing what they think is funny. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. That's what the target I was talking about.
And also, but that having been said, when I write stuff for Kimmel, I only write stuff that amuses me too.
Right.
I won't, I could write stuff that it's okay, I know this will work, but I don't think it's funny. But I don't like to work that way. So if I submit a thing, it's because I think it's funny also,
Well, do you think Jimmy Kimmel let's say he has 5 writers in the room. 5 jokes are handed to him. 1 was written by each writer. Do you think he could tell you who wrote which joke just because he knows you guys that well?
He absolutely, In fact, sometimes I get assigned a thing, because a bit will come across his desk, an idea will come across his desk or whatever, and he'll go, have Jesse look into that or whatever. Because
good.
He knows
so
what my strong suits are, but he also knows what aren't my strong suits, and so I don't even know the stuff that doesn't come my way because he knows for sure that I'm not the guy to go to when it's whatever some kind of like I would say, don't go to me for like some, mindless celebrity thing. Like I don't really
Vapid.
care about that as much as I like to dig into the Trump administration, for example.
Okay,
and find some unknown nugget of some stupid thing that Don Jr. did in college or whatever. That's
right.
that's a thing.
So he's the Godfather. He's the Godfather, and he's got an assassination, and he's got a hit, and he says to his consigliere, "Give that one to Jesse."
Yeah, kind of, basically, yeah. It's like, but also it's like, we all get the topics in the morning, and we all have to write to everything. But then there again, like I'll give you a specific example.
Okay.
That I am now a gigantic fan of this guy. So, what I'll explain. So, I'm the go-to guy for conspiracy theory shit. Like my brain, I could so easily go that way if I wasn't loved enough and didn't have enough self-worth and didn't have a good education. Like, because I am so tickled by them. Like, I never fall for them because I'm not a dipshit, but I enjoy the ridiculous math of a conspiracy theory and how people get from A to Z like that illogically. And and I can make my brain do that if I want to, like for comedic purposes. Like I can find connections that aren't there in a thing to just to be, for a joke. So like I did this whole bit on our show once. I found out, and when I saw it, it made my blood run cold. The dad character in the movie Hocus Pocus is named David Dennison. That's the name of the character of the dad in that 30-year-old movie Hocus Pocus.
Okay.
You remember, that movie that I'm talking about?
I do. It's about witches.
Yes. Do you know what the name that Donald Trump used as an alias when he paid off Stormy Daniels? Fucking David Dennison. So it's really just literally a stupid coincidence, but I blew it out into this whole thing. It's a movie about witches. He's in a witch hunt. He's clearly dog whistling to us that he's David Dennison. And like I did this whole drawn out ridiculous. I pulled in Deutsche Bank and like all these stupid connections that don't really exist, and found what date Bette Midler's birthday was and what happened on that date and all this stupid horse shit. But like that is something that really tickles me. I'm really good at it.
Right.
That's just to get you up to speed on like I love doing that. So
sure. So Kimmel Ryder is part private detective, part hitman, part painter. Right, you're gonna be on somebody's list of, hey, this guy can get this done. Assign him this. He's artistic. He's creative. He's investigative. He doesn't quit. He digs a lot. Question for you: the lifestyle that you have now today, the married guy, 2 kids, stable. Owns his own home. Yeah, you got that ring that we like. Full-time job. And right now, in hiatus kind of thing where Kimmel took some time off now, right? Your boss on vacation for a couple weeks, I read.
Yeah, that was planned we knew about that. And then coronavirus happened and it made it like a much greater challenge. But anyway,
well, here's the thing. But I read this too. Is this true that he decided to pay all you guys out of his money, whether you were working or not?
Yeah. Which is such a decent thing. I mean, I like that. It didn't affect me, for example, because we're still doing the show. So I'm getting paid
you are still
to
doing
do
the show.
But like some of the crew, they don't need a big crew because we're not doing bits at the studio. But yeah, so he's fronting that, which is like,
right.
He really is like such a great, like it really does feel like a family, like in that way, like he really takes care of you. Like if, he knows when your kid's birthday is, like stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like he's a good guy. So,
as a viewer, it appears that way. As a viewer, I've never met him in person, but as a viewer, it seems like that there's a family dynamic of care and emotion. And when his kid was born and he was at risk and there was a threat there of poor health, and you got to see emotionally. Kimmel's not afraid to let you see him spill some stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm like that too. Like I'm a big fucking crier.
I know you
like,
are. I
it's
was
just,
going to make
like,
that
I just can't
parallel.
help it. Like,
No, I was going to make that parallel that you're a man. You're a family man. You love your parents. You love your older brother. I know a lot about you. Let me ask you a question because I want to wrap up this shorter version. You're an intriguing character. I know people are going to look you up, but there's always two questions I ask. Okay, in the episodes. One is 5 years from now, perfect world. Where would you be, and what are you doing?
I would love to be in a position where I can sell a show that I wrote. Like, I want to get into the narrative storytelling format. You know, I want to. I have a lot of ideas that I think would make for good shows, and I am currently in the process of writing a few of them, and hopefully something like that would hit. You know, because I do feel like there's kind of a shelf life on joke writing, you know, as you don't see a lot of guys in their late 50s that are joke writers. You know what I mean? So,
No.
You know, because you can get a guy who's 22, like I was initially, and pay him half of me, you know?
Absolutely
So,
right. It's that new
kid,
guard.
And that kid knows what TikTok is. You know what I mean? So, like, you know, it's an advantage to have, like, younger blood in a writer's room, you know, when you're just talking about jokes. When it comes to storytelling, you want somebody who has had the life experience to know how to tell a story. And that's, I think, the next logical evolution of, like, what I would like to do. So.
And a 22-year-old can't put a series into syndication. A guy who's 50 plus, there's some long-term storytelling ability there. I get that. You got that in spades. Question for you: any shameless plug for Jesse Joyce or Jesse Joyce Center? Shameless plug. Go.
Not really right now. I mean, just because I have the two kids and everything, and like the Kimmel gig, like that's pretty much what like I'm not really doing stand up that much anymore. You know, like right now at least while my kids are little. So I mean, you can check out me on Twitter. You know, Jesse Joyce, Twitter / Jesse Joyce. That's it. But
okay, they can follow you there.
Instagram, Jesse Joyce 1, because some dipshit got there before I did. But and then sat on it, like isn't doing anything with that, like hasn't used it in years. But but anyway, so yeah, like kind of sadly, like I'm not really doing. It's not all about me right now. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of just working on a bunch of stuff for other people, including my own children. So
well, and fair enough. And in the big picture, that's an honorable guy.
You know,
hey,
this
listen.
is so funny. I know you want to wrap up, but I just wanted to say real quick. I thought this is like speaking of like me, right? Like I was talking to a buddy of mine who writes for TV shows and stuff, like, you know, in the narrative world, which is what I'm trying to break into or whatever. And I've been having like such a fucking like it's taken me forever to get this one script like done and in shape, and it's because I have a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. Like it's just, you know, so much bullshit. That you know how like when everybody, and so like I know this is like pie in the sky or whatever, but like you know how like when somebody wins an Emmy, they go up and they like immediately like thank their family. Like if I ever won an Emmy for this show that I'm currently working on, I would do whatever the opposite of thanking your children is. Like I want to go up and actively say like my fucking kids prevented, like did everything in their power to make sure that this show never happens. Like, like they made it so impossible to write this goddamn show.
Yeah. In honor of my wife, I did this show. In spite of my kids, I did this damn show.
In spite of my children, I put this together.
All right, listen, Jesse Joyce, my friend, I love you. It's good to talk to you, and thanks for taking the time to do the show that we did just now.
Sure, this has been a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you.
Be well, and I'll talk to you very soon.
Okay, sounds good.
Good, right? Did I promise you? Yeah, Jesse never disappoints, unless it's Mrs. Jesse. I don't know. Cold shot, but you know what I'm going to do? This is funny. Here's what we tease about. We tease because we have thick skin. How do you think Jesse, Mark Lundholm, some other people that you know that are very funny, how do you think their skin thickened up? It wasn't false. It wasn't artificial. It was because we learned to take the hits that life gives us. There is a quote, I wish I knew who said it, but life imitates art. Well, you heard Jesse say he was an art major. and he knows a lot about representation of life in still life and comedy, written, spoken word. It's a very odd feeling to have the words you wrote, came up with, crafted carefully, come out of someone else's mouth. I've done it as an author. I've done it as a writer, comedy writer for other people. Jesse spoke about, how many people say it in their way, not particularly his way, but we have a language lever that we use as writers that says, I can pull this all the way down and everything stops. Wow, bang. Or I can push this forward and it's like a throttle, right? So the wind up here after talking to Jesse is, how much has life changed for a solitary act on the road to a guy who has the wife, the kids, the job, the stable, the check, the support, the families, the sobriety for him? He talked about that. These days, isn't it the best possible case to have more is better? A balanced approach to life. I mean, when you go to bed at night, how many things are you thinking about? When you wake up in the morning, how many things are you grateful for? There is a sacrifice that's got to be maintained in that process that means, man, I can't have it all, but I want to go for more. I'm very content with where we're at right now. This show, the visibility, we have a bunch of different guests that are going to talk to you guys about a whole bunch of different topics. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I wanted to leave you with a couple of shortcuts. Yes, back at you with shortcut for today. Today's shortcut, if you have a gift, you have to give. The gift that I have, the gift that Jesse has, and a lot of us have and don't use well, is language. The gift of language. Language is the way we connect as human beings. I don't know a lot of psychics, and I don't know that the emotional read on anybody is particularly accurate all the time. But we talk about things, we get to teach about things and learn about things. Language. Yeah, that. When we connect with language, it makes it easier to talk about feelings or ideas or concepts or truths or trust. All kinds of things get discussed. When we have a gift, we have to give. What are you doing with the gift of language you have, with the gift of connection you have, the communication you have? What are you doing with what you got? And Jesse was such a good guest. We have 2 shortcuts today. First thought wrong. Listen, do you think a normal, healthy mind comes up with the abstract ideas that you see on the Comedy Central roast, or the language, or the acidic, brutal kind of attack verbally that people just put up with on that show? That's why they wrote that show, is they could have that kind of talk. First thought wrong can be a gift. And if you have a gift, you have to give. First thought wrong is why I write comedy for a living. Jesse showed you some of that too. Everybody has a layer, I think, of first thought, wrong answer, wrong solution, wrong, ouch, wrong, rude. Take a look at yourself this week and see, was that my first thought? And how okay was it? How wrong was it? How acceptable is it? And what am I going to do next? Mark Lundholm Show, once again, telling you, hey, hashtag be first. Hashtag be first. If you don't see some out there, be some out there. Peace, love, calm, rationality, patience. If you don't see some, be some. Thanks as always for tuning in. We'll see you later.